Hey YouTubers. Well, if you've watched my other YouTube videos or looked around my website, you know I like to build a lot of cool stuff. And I just moved into my new house and I want to build a lot of cool stuff here. This is my garage. I'm in the process of turning it into a workshop. Got a long way to go yet. Not quite ready for prime time. And one thing I really need is a decent workbench. I am working with this thing right now, which is rickety and old and falling apart and termite eaten and on its last legs, literally. And it's small on top of everything else. But, you know, it was free. It's a starter workbench, so I'm using it. But I need a decent workbench that I can build stuff on. And it's got to be sturdy. So over here in this corner, I've got the materials for a workbench. I've got a 36 by 80 solid core door that I picked up really cheap at the Habitat for Humanity Restore. It looks like it's a brand new door, never been drilled out for knob set, never been mortised for hinges. It's got some flaws in the Luan finish on it, so it was sitting at the rack at the Restore. I got it for like $30. Brand new solid core door. And some 2x4s picked up at Lowe's. So with them, I'm going to build myself a really sturdy and really large workbench to sit in the middle of my garage that I can build cool projects on. And it's going to be really sturdy and solid, and I'll be able to wail away on stuff on it and not worry about the workbench breaking or shaking or wobbling or falling apart. So I'll show you various stages along the project and the finished product. More to come. Okay, I've been busy today. Here you can see I've turned that pile of 2x4s into the frame for my new workbench. Pardon the noise of the pool pump in the background. I hope you can hear me okay. Anyway, I wanted to show you this frame. I don't have the top on it yet. It's a lot easier to maneuver without the top. That door must weigh close to 100 pounds, so I'll move this into the garage where I want it, and I'll put the top on it there. Actually, what I will probably do, the easiest way to put the top on would be to lay the door on the floor with the side I want facing up, down against the floor, and then lay the frame down on top of it upside down and screw the frame onto it. And there's a couple different ways I can screw the frame onto the door. Screw through the door into the frame is one way. I don't really like that though, because if the screws stick up a little bit, you're constantly snagging stuff on them, and if you countersink them, you've got a well that collects grime. So I'm going to use these little angle brackets here. I'm going to mount 6 of them on the frame, and then screw through into the frame, and then through the other side up into the door. And it'll be really easy to mount the door on here to make the top of the bench. And it'll be really easy to take it off if I need to change it out. Like after a couple of years of wailing away on this thing, if the top surface gets really ratty and nasty, I can just loosen it up, loosen those screws, take them out, and flip the door over and get a couple more years use out of it, and then flip it over or take it off and replace it with another door. So that's my plan anyway. And then I wanted to show you how I built this thing. I wanted the frame to be recessed about 2 inches back from the edge of the top all the way around. That allows me to get a clamp in here so I can clamp stuff down to the top surface of the bench, which is really useful. Now, the benches at the rented workshop space I'm using now don't have this feature. They're built of 2x4s and doors too, but the 2x4s are right flush to the edge of the door, and it's really hard to get a clamp in there. You really need a tall clamp if you want to clamp something to them. And with this, I'm going to have a 2-inch overhang, which is going to allow me to clamp things really easily. But the legs, as you can see, are bolted on, so they're still almost out at the outside corners of the bench, which is going to make it a lot more stable, less rocky than if I had recessed them in here. So I still got about a 1/2 inch of recess where the legs are going to be, but still, it's very close to the corners of the top, so it's going to be very stable. And I also wanted to point out how I mounted these legs on here. They're made out of two 2x4s screwed together in an L shape. There you can see the screws going down the side there that hold the two pieces together. I screwed them together first, and then I screwed them on the frame. And note how I mounted it on the frame. I've got screws going through this 2x4 into here, and screws going through this 2x4 into here. Now, if I had mounted these like this, see that? I would only have screws going into this 2x4 and screws going into the same 2x4. So by mounting it like this, it really strengthens the corner a lot, makes it a lot stronger. So if you want to build a workbench like this one, put the legs on this way. It is a lot stronger. And I built a bench down here underneath. Not only does this strengthen the structure by having this bench down here, prevent the legs from spreading, but I'm going to put some scrap plywood across it just to make a bench to or just a little storage shelf to store stuff out of the way and off the floor, high and dry. The previous owners of the house left some nice sheets of plywood in the storage shed, which are just the right size. I didn't even plan it this way. They just turned out to be perfect for going on here. So I'm going to put those on after I get the top on and bolted on and the bench in place, because everything I put on it now just makes it heavier and harder to maneuver. So I'll assemble it in place in the garage where I want it, and I'll show you what it looks like all together. Back soon. Okay, I have rolled the frame into my garage and centered it up on top of the door, which is laying on the floor. The side of the door I want facing up is down on the ground, so I'm about to marry the two together. I've got my little angle brackets in place where I want them, and I'm going to screw it all together. But I just remembered that I have not provided any dimensions, and every time I build a project and put it on my website or put it on YouTube and don't provide any dimensions, I get a lot of grief from people. And I just basically say to them, hey, build it to the dimensions you need it, but if you want to exactly copy this workbench, I'll give you some dimensions. I had my tape measure here a minute ago. There it is. Basically, start off with a 36 by 80 solid core wood door. Now, if you go with a different size door, all this is going to change. But start off with a 36 by 80 solid core door if you want to exactly copy this project. And 10 8-foot 2x4s. That's going to give you enough wood to cut out the frame, all the pieces you need for the frame, and have a little bit left over for scrap or firewood for your fireplace. I plan on burning most of that in my fireplace. Probably it's going to be a cold night tonight. It's already getting chilly. The sun's not even down yet. So, as to dimensions, well, first off, height-wise, the legs are 32 inches long. And with the thickness of the door included, that gives me a height at the top of the bench of 34 inches, which is pretty convenient for me. It's a good height for me. If you need it taller or shorter, you just go ahead and make it taller or shorter to, fit your needs. If you're extremely tall, you probably don't like bending over when you're working on stuff, so you might want to make the legs a little longer. If you're a little shorter, you have to work from a chair, you might want to, make the legs a little shorter. As I said earlier, I recessed everything 2 inches in all the way around. So since the door is 36 by 80, the frame then is 32 by 76. So basically the long pieces are 76 long, and the short pieces fit between them. I believe that's 29 inches if the math is right. 29 inches, yeah. So, and then 2 square frames like that. One for supporting the top of the bench, and one for supporting the shelf and preventing the legs from spreading. And then I put in a couple of stretchers too. Not sure the top one's really needed, but I threw it in there because I had a spare piece of wood. And the bottom one is needed because of the pieces of shelf plywood that are going to go across are only long enough to make it to the middle. So I got to have a stretcher on the bottom. Let's see, what am I not covering? I think that's pretty much it. It's a really simple project. I don't have any drawings to show you, unfortunately. I've been building stuff my whole life. For something as simple as this, I basically design and estimate materials for the whole thing in my head. So I don't have any drawings or anything I can show you. It just sort of happened. But there are the dimensions. Get yourself a pencil and paper and replay that part of the video if you need to write something down. So I'm going to get busy marrying the top and the frame together, and then what I'm going to do to make it easy on myself is I'm just going to roll it upright, so I don't have to lift too much of it at a time because it's starting to get heavy. That door is heavy. The frame's pretty heavy too. That's a lot of 2x4 wood there. So I'm going to marry them together, roll it upright, and I don't know if I'll get around to installing the plywood shelf material on it tonight or not. It's starting to get late, but I'll give you a look at the finished bench when it's done. More later. Well, okay, I finished marrying the top to the frame, and I just rolled it upright, and I do mean just. I'm a little winded. That was difficult. That door is heavy. If it had been a little heavier, I'd needed somebody else's help to get it upright. I don't think I could have done it on my own. It doesn't help probably that I've lost 50 pounds in the last couple of months, so I think this bench is heavier than I am now, and it's a little hard to move. Anyway, I'm not quite done yet. I don't have the plywood on the shelf down below, but it is put together and upright, and I realized I hadn't mentioned what I was using what kind of screws I was using to hold it together. For the frame, I used 2.5-inch coarse thread drywall screws to hold all the pieces of the frame together. They work pretty well for screwing 2x4s together, so that's kind of my go-to screw for that. And then to hold the brackets on and the top to the brackets, I'm using 1.25 inch number 6 drywall screws. Nothing special there. They're pretty standard drywall screw. Not a very hefty screw, but there's 12 of them holding the top down, but mainly what's holding the top down is its mass. It's heavy. It's not going anywhere. So anyway, I'm going to get back to work. Maybe I can get the shelving on tonight, and I'll give you a look at that when I'm done. Back soon. Well, there it is. The new workbench finally done. I got the old plywood shelving that I found in the storage shed out back down there. Looked like it may have been a bookcase or something that they took apart. But the wood fits perfectly. I don't know how that happened. I didn't even design it that way. Just saw the wood, tried it in there, fits perfect. So all I have left to do is get my brad nailer out, shoot a few brads into it to hold it down, and the workbench is basically done. The first of many projects I want to build in my new garage workshop here, and using the bench I'll be able to work on a whole lot of other projects, and I just love it. It's just the right height for me. Surface is pretty smooth. You can see some of the marks that made it a unwanted door. That's why I got it so cheap. Surface is so nice, I'm tempted to sand it and polyurethane it, but I know how I use workbench tops, so probably not. Maybe I'll get a sacrificial sheet of plywood to put on top of it so it doesn't get destroyed so quickly. Who knows? I will probably also mount power on it. I have a outlet strip here. I'll probably mount it up under here like this, just to make it easy to plug power tools in on top of the bench. I'll do that another day. It's getting late. Only took me a couple hours to do this, but it was a couple hours spread out over a whole day. Did a lot of other things today too. So, but at least I got this done. This is something I've been needing for a long time, a decent workbench that I can work on stuff and get back to work on my many projects. Now that the house is to a condition where I don't have to work on it every day, I can get back to work on my projects. How much did this workbench cost? Good question. If you've ever gone out and priced a decent heavy-duty solid workbench that you can wail away on, you've probably suffered from severe sticker shock. A bench like this would set you back $400 or $500 if you went out and bought one at Lowe's, Home Depot, or a specialty woodworking store, probably. I built this for less than $100. The door that's on top there, that cost me $30 at the Restore, the Habitat for Humanity Restore. It's just an old solid core door. Actually, it's a brand new solid core door, but it has some damage to it, mostly on the other side. So nobody wanted it, so I got it cheap, $30. 10 8-foot 2x4s. Those are about $3 a piece. So that's another $30 in 2x4s. The plywood was free. A couple bucks in brackets, a couple bucks in screws. So, you know, well under $100, probably under $80 I have into it. A lot of elbow grease went into it. My back's a little sore. Standing it upright after marrying the frame and the top together was difficult. I just don't have the mass to muscle the thing around anymore. But I finally got it upright after about 6 tries. So there it is. A very successful day. And before it gets too dark, I'm going to get my brad nailer out, throw some brads in it, and get this garage door closed because it is getting cold. So anyway, if you are interested in building a workbench, I hope you find this video useful and helpful. And thanks for watching.